Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of our Exodus series. In this series so far, we've heard lots about Yahweh. We've heard about the amazing things he's done. We've heard lots about what he's like. So what should we do? How should we respond to what we've seen and heard about Yahweh in Exodus? To help us find out what we should do, I want to introduce you to a character from Exodus. This is a character in the Bible that not many people know about. He does not get into many children's books, and he doesn't seem to be very famous. This man is called Jethro. Finding out about Jethro will help us find out about what we should do after hearing about who Yahweh is and what Yahweh has done. Jethro will help us because in many ways he is like us. We have lots of things in common with him. Now, here are some things we need to know about Jethro. Like us, Jethro was not an Israelite, nor was he an Egyptian either. Already, that's a bit strange, because almost everyone in Exodus is either an Israelite or an Egyptian. Like us, Jethro did not live in Egypt. This means that Jethro did not see with his own eyes any of the plagues Yahweh sent. Jethro was not in any house in Egypt when the Passover happened. He did not walk through the Red Sea when Yahweh made a pathway through it. Nor did he see what happened when Yahweh brought back the waves, crushing Pharaoh's army. Like us, Jethro only hears about what Yahweh had done. He was not actually there for any of it. But when Jethro hears about what Yahweh has done, he does what everyone is supposed to do. Jethro responds to what he hears in the right way. Before we hear what he did, we need to hear a little bit more about Jethro. It's time to go back in time in Exodus. Remember right back to chapter 2. After Moses was rescued from the river Nile, he grew up in Pharaoh's palace. But then Moses had to run away from Egypt. He escaped into the desert. That's where Jethro lived, in the land of Midian. Moses ended up living with Jethro, and he even married Jethro's daughter. In Exodus chapter 3, it was while Moses was a shepherd looking after Jethro's sheep that Moses saw the burning bush which didn't burn up. In Exodus chapter 4, Moses went back into Egypt to tell Pharaoh to let God's people go, and it was Jethro who sent him on his way. Then we don't hear anything more about Jethro for quite a few chapters of the story. Then, in chapter 18, Jethro pops up again. He's come to visit Moses in the desert. This is what happens. I'm going to read Exodus chapter 18, verses 7 to 11. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. They greeted each other and then went into the tent. Moses told his father-in-law about everything Yahweh had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and about all the hardships they had met along the way, and how Yahweh had saved them. Jethro was delighted to hear about all the good things Yahweh had done for Israel in rescuing them from the hand of the Egyptians. He said, "Praise be to Yahweh, who rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and of Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that Yahweh is greater than all other gods, for he did this to those who had treated Israel arrogantly." Jethro did not see what Yahweh had done, but he heard about it from Moses. What did Jethro do? Let's hear it again. These are verses 9 to 11 again. He said, "Praise be to Yahweh, who rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and of Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that Yahweh is greater than all other gods." Jethro is delighted. Jethro realizes that Yahweh has saved his people and that Yahweh has smashed his enemies. This was good news to Jethro, so he praises Yahweh. The Israelites have spent the last 2 chapters of Exodus grumbling against Yahweh. Grumble, grumble, grumble. Now Jethro comes in and he shows us how God's people should respond, not with grumbling, but with joy and delight. He realizes God is great. He realizes God is good. But Jethro saw one more thing. He saw how the grumbling Israelites queue up for help in front of Moses' tent from sunrise. Moses had no time to listen to God and think about how to lead the nation now that they are in the desert. So Jethro gave Moses some advice. Jethro tells Moses to trust other people who have also seen what Yahweh is like and let them help lead the people. Moses listened to Jethro's advice and divided the Israelites into groups of 10, 50, and 100. Each of these groups had their own leader who helped with everyday problems in the Israelites' camp. This way, Moses had time to think about leading the whole nation on their way to the Promised Land. We're like Jethro because we too have heard the good news of Exodus. And, like Jethro, we haven't seen what happened with our own eyes. We have only heard about it. We have heard that Yahweh is really powerful. We have heard that Yahweh saves his people. We've heard that Yahweh smashes his enemies. And what's even better for us than for Jethro is that we have heard about an even bigger rescue. We haven't seen this even bigger rescue with our own eyes, but we have heard about it in the Bible. A long, long time after the Exodus, God came once again to bring the even bigger rescue. This rescue was when God sent Jesus to save his people from their sins. When Jesus died on the cross and was raised to life again, he saved all God's people. This even bigger rescue includes us, if we turn from sin and trust in Jesus. When Jesus died on the cross and was raised to life again, he also defeated all God's enemies. Sin and death and the devil cannot beat Jesus. All who trust in Jesus are safe from these things. With God, we are on the winning side. How should we respond to all this? Like Jethro did. We should be delighted. We should realize that Yahweh has done everything needed to save his people. All God's people should join Jethro in praising Yahweh. We can praise Yahweh by singing songs about him and the wonderful things he has done. Sometimes we sing songs at church, sometimes we sing these songs at home, and sometimes you might even sing these songs in the car. We can praise Yahweh for he has saved his people. We can also praise Yahweh by talking to him, by praying to Yahweh. We can tell him how amazing he is and how amazing what he has done for us is. Next time, we will hear more about how God rescues his people. See you then.